Hello and welcome to this episode of Activating Magic. I'm here with the fabulous Jeanna Gabellini. Hi, Jeanna.
Hi.
We are going to talk about some magic today and also money, manifesting, and we'll see what else Source wants to come through. So, Jeanna is a master business coach and chief rabble rouser of Masterpiece Coaching, PEACE. I love that name. After 25 plus years of liberating business owners from the curse of not enough and the myth that hard work pays off, she knows without question you can make massive amounts of money and impact millions, even if you've been struggling for years. If you're willing to flip the switch on your thinking, chuck the old school rules in the toilet, and stay true to what lights you up and turns you on. Jeanna, I'm so excited, and I'm sure people can hear by the way your bio is written that you're going to be a lot of fun.
If we're not having fun, we're not connected to source, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So, everything goes here. All is welcome, language, etc. So tell people a little bit, you've been doing this for a while. I met you, gosh, almost a decade ago. What got you into the world of coaching and transformation to begin with?
It was an accident. I was resistant. It all started way back when an old boyfriend wanted me to go to a personal growth seminar, and I was like, why would I do that? I am so happy with myself. And then, of course, I went to an intro night and was like, I could learn some stuff. And then I ended up working for that company, which is hilarious. And at some point, I was coaching programs for them, and somebody just said, hey, did you know that there's a coaches training school? I was like, what? People do this for like a living on their own? I'll go to a class. Show me something I don't already know. I'm like, oh, they showed me all sorts of stuff I didn't know. I was one of those coaches in the beginning that people probably love to hate. Like, oh, you helped me get my goals, but I hated you in the process. That was me. I was like, what? Why are you scared? You said you wanted this. Let's go get it. And clients were like, oh my gosh, you're having me move too quick. I didn't know anything about tapping into inner guidance, meeting clients where they were at, compassion for when they get stuck. I didn't know any of that. So I got a lot better over the years. And that was 28 years ago.
Wow. I love that. Well, first of all, I have a quiz that helps people identify what I call their magic. And I'm hearing expansion magic all over in what you just shared of like being able to see like, oh, this is totally possible and there's nothing in the way, right? And it comes from this foundational belief that the universe is abundant. And it's like, I find that expansion magic people kind of came in with it. Like kind of look around and go, why is everybody so limited? Like the world is abundant. And so I'm curious if that resonates for you.
It does. It's funny because I have a quiz too. And mine is like, what's your client attraction superpower? Probably totally different than yours, but that is my superpower. And it is like, I believe it enough. So even if you don't, it's okay. Just lean on in and come along for the mojo ride for a while. And then pretty soon you'll start believing too. Because to me, of course, it's possible. Now, I'm not saying I'm always great with myself. It's so much easier for me to do it for other people. Like, of course, I totally see that for you. With myself, I'm like, really? Can I do that? Oh, I'm not sure. I might be a little crazy.
Well, a little crazy is amazing. Okay. So I love that. I personally got into first I was trained as a coach in corporate and I didn't really know what it was but it was the light bulb like, wow, you mean we can change the way we view things and then it changes our life? Like what? But then I got into Landmark. I don't know if that's where you were, but I went in through the introduction leaders program and all of that and kind of started thinking like, could I get paid for this? So I love that you worked, you went for it.
No, I did. Yeah. And it wasn't Landmark, but very similar. And I thought, oh, there's so much, I want to do this for the rest of my life. And 28 years later, still just as exciting. It makes me so happy.
I love it. Same. Okay. So talk a little bit about, expansion magic, and you love talking about money and helping clients really to up level all of the areas of their business and life. How, how did you settle in on that being your thing?
Probably because I struggled with money. I wanted more money.
Mm,
I saw that it was possible. And in the beginning, I really thought it was all about marketing. Like, I just have to market more and I have to do more,
mhm.
and then I will make more. And I didn't have any good role models back then. Back when I started, I think it was much different than what we see now. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen people have $1 million businesses in their first year. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. It's awesome. I struggled to get there because I thought it was all about doing. You had to do the right
Yes.
things. I had to look more professional. I had to talk more professional, definitely, if I wanted to make more money. And all the coaches I saw were working 50, 60 hours, and they had so many clients, so many clients. And I remember I got to 16 clients and I was teaching some workshops and I thought, I'm never going to make a lot. I'm never going to get to six figures. I will burn out at the rates I was,
Yeah.
charging. And I really thought at that time, at least, I live in California. And I don't know how it is where you live in Colorado, but in California, you got to make a lot of money just to like be average here, like a smallish house, just live. I'm in the Bay Area. And so I thought, if I just get to 100,000,
Mhm.
this
Yeah.
is going to be the holy grail. And I'll tell you what, the first year that I finally made 100,000 was the only year that I stopped making it about marketing. I stopped making it about productivity. In fact,
Cool.
I know because you told me earlier that you
Mhm.
had Eva Gregory as one of your guests on a previous
Mhm.
podcast. Eva and I are best friends, and we were teaching a class back then, and we both wanted to make like 100,000. Of course, everybody wanted to make 100,000,
Yeah.
and so we just started. At first, it started with we were teaching a class, and when we told people about like pure pleasure day, like you got to have a pure pleasure day where you do whatever you want when you want. We thought we did it every Friday. And then we thought, what if we tried a 30-day experiment? If the only things that we did were from pure pleasure and the only appointments we kept were with clients. So, like, if we wanted a team meeting, we also had a business together. So, if we had a team meeting and we weren't feeling it, we would cancel it. If you didn't want to answer the phone because you didn't feel like answering the phone, and back in those days, that's how people hired you. They did not go
Right.
off the internet, right? If you had a website, you were badass. I had a website, but people weren't like going like off the website buying. And that's what we did. And we did it for 30 days. And it was very scary to just literally do whatever you want. That's crazy. We're going to go broke. You can't like do
Yes.
whatever you want. And then it started working. And we just continued on for the year. And that was the very first year I made 100,000. I tripled my income. And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, this is a whole different way of playing. And that's what really got
Wow.
me into the money thing. I'm like, oh, you got to really play. It's all inner game. I am not dissing on
Mhm.
marketing, y'all. I love marketing. I spend a lot of
Yeah.
time marketing. I love learning about marketing. I love all things marketing. But before, I think I used to see marketing as a point A to point B, and it felt like work and it felt like you had to get it right.
Yeah.
And now I see, oh, it's all inner game, even the marketing within the strategies that you use. It all has to be put through your soul filter. How does it feel? And if it feels good, then it's going to make you money.
Yes. How do you teach that in your, in your context with your clients?
I think we go all over the place because I feel that when it comes to money, it's just so triggering in all sorts of
Yeah.
ways for people. And I think the first thing to do is just see money. I was going to say something really bad. Money is your bitch. It's like a dog
Yeah.
on a leash. It's
Mm.
just going to follow. Like I used to have a little dog, and I remember thinking, okay, between this coaching client and this coaching client, I got to go for a walk, and then I might be a little late, so I'm like trying to hurry. And of course, when I'm trying to hurry, what does my dog want to do on a walk? Sniff everything. And even though she was only like 18 pounds, she would like seem like she was 100 pounds, and I must smell this plant. And I was like, wait a minute, who's in charge, the dog or me? I better shift my energy so that the dog kind of just goes where I want it to go. And that's how I think the first step is seeing money that way. Money is not like this outside.
Mm.
If I do it right, I'll be rewarded if I'm lucky. if I do the right
Yeah.
things, if I say the right things, money is just matching whatever you're doing. It's matching your energy.
Mhm.
It's matching your expectation. You don't have to get it all right. Don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be
Yeah.
on point and in the flow all the time for the money to come in. I have definitely had tons
Yeah.
of limiting thoughts and always do still around money, and I can still watch it come in. You just got to focus on upgrading your mindset all the time. It's a constant. There's lots of different ways to work on money, but that's kind of
As
the
someone with a 70-pound pit bull, really get the dog analogy. Like there's no moving him. You went through this personal development training. So presumably you had a lot of experience with mindset, energy, and then we, I'm just relating this for myself, getting into this world of marketing and all for me, it like went out the window,
yes,
right? And then it would be like
exactly.
this little small voice going, but what about, what feels alive? But what about what you love? And then it would be my coach telling me, go do this thing. And
Yeah.
this would be screaming, and I would kind of ignore it. And sometimes I would listen. Why do you think that happens so often? As soon as we hear marketing, we like disconnect.
Yeah. I think marketing is a trigger for a formula. And if you want the formula to work, you have to do it right. And will the formula really work for me? Because we really don't, I mean, the whole thing is we don't believe it's just as easy as following what feels good and then clients will say yes. This is what I always say. I probably got to making around $400,000 or $500,000 a year without really knowing marketing, not truly. I didn't know how to articulate the message and the promise of what I did. I didn't really know how to do copywriting. I honestly was just, it was all fumes of positive thinking, and not positive, like faux positive thinking. We're like, this is going to work. It's like following the feel good, following the feel good. And at some point, it felt good for me to dive into learning marketing. And because I wanted to, instead of doing it to get money, I really wanted to understand it.
Mhm.
Then it all clicked. I always tried to learn marketing, but I saw it as a means to an end versus a creative process.
Yes.
And I think with marketing, we just feel if we don't do it right, because we see people telling us that.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we're also seeing, oh, if that's the way people do it in our niche, that's the way I should probably do it, even though something inside you might be screaming, this doesn't feel totally good. Or I don't know, the expert said to do it this way, so then I should probably do it
Yeah.
instead of, hey, let me take, I don't think that people teaching marketing is bad. I think we should go learn stuff like that if you're an entrepreneur. But
Mhm.
all right, let me learn it and then let me get a little unleashed with it. Let me have a little fun with that. I like that part. I like that part. I don't like that part. So
Mm.
let's try it and tweak it so that it seems fun.
Mm.
It seems like a game. It's all an
Oh,
experiment because
yeah.
it is. I don't know if it's going to work, but what I know is if I feel called to do this, then it was the right thing. Like, for instance, I
Mhm.
don't know what marketing that you do, but I do a ton of free webinars because I actually like doing free webinars. I especially like doing Q&A at the end and talking to people.
Mhm.
So even if people don't buy, or I just have I feel like 25, 50 people should have bought and I get 2 sales, which literally just happened to me. I'm like, oh, well, it doesn't really matter because I felt called to do this free
Yeah.
webinar. This is what my soul told me to do. So it's leading somewhere. That's
Mhm.
exactly what I was supposed to do. It doesn't matter what the results
Mhm.
were. If my soul called to do it, then it was what I was supposed to do. And then the next day I did
Yeah.
it again and I made a shit ton of money because it's
It's
always working out.
leading somewhere. Yeah, I've had those experiences where maybe my enrollment was lower, but whatever I learned or whatever I felt edgy enough to say or do because it was a smaller group then informed like the next bigger thing. And knowing knowing that and trusting that it's leading somewhere is such a muscle.
It is. And it's like, it doesn't, here's another way of saying it. It doesn't matter if I made money from that. it's leading to more money and clients because I am actually following and trusting what my inner guidance is saying. And that is always leading me to the next step and the next step. So I remember years ago, I had done like 400,000 in one launch, right? In one marketing campaign,
Mhm.
which is huge. Then the next year I did it, it got like cut in half. Did all the normal same things, but I was definitely in my head instead of really following. So I'm like, oh, well, if I did 400,000 last year, I should definitely do more this year. And I started striving, not listening to, inner guidance as
Yeah.
much. And so I thought, oh my gosh, my life is over. This year's going to be very bad. My expenses are high. I needed to make that money. And from that pool of people, we would upsell to this, and now we're screwed. Life is over. Maybe I should not coach. It was actually the first time I ever thought that. Maybe I'm really not meant for this. And I called my coach in a panic, my business coach, and he's like, Jeanna, I really think you should just go be with your kids tonight. I can't. I'm crying. And the next day, I was more calmed down and we talked about it. I'm like, okay, just because that launch didn't work doesn't mean I still can't meet my goals this year. Don't give that launch meaning. That's what
Right.
ultimately came to me. Oh, I'm giving that meaning. I've already decided this is the rest of the year is going to stop because this just happened versus what if that was just one little blip? And I
Yeah.
did. It's true. My income wasn't down that year. I had the same income that year as I did the year before, even though that happened. And that really taught me a huge lesson. Like, oh, it only means something if you give it meaning. If I don't make a big hairy deal out of it, I'll just course correct and everything's going to be fine.
I had an experience. I know you're doing back-to-back retreats. This was when I was first starting to do retreats. And my first retreat, I made an offer for a program. It was a 6K program and 6 people signed up immediately. And then I had a couple more sign up from my list. And I was like, okay, this was like baby early stages. I'm like, oh, this works. Okay, let me do this again. And so my second one, and I'm like buying all this coaching. So I have like ton of expenses, right? So I go to my second one and I had placed the deposit for the conference room at the venue and go through the thing and I make my offer and like this woman asked this question during the offer and all the energy went out of the room and it was like really bad. And one person signed up, right? And on a payment plan. And I had to pay the hotel to check out of the hotel. And I'm like, what am I going to do? How did this happen?
Oh,
And so it was that same kind of thing. And I put an email out to my list and people signed up from my list, right? It was like, and I think one or two more from the retreat signed up after. But in that moment, it was like all of those things. What am I doing? This is, not real. This is you don't have a business. What are you doing here? All of that. I'm curious. You said learn the marketing and then get a little unleashed.
yeah.
I love that. And I remember I had a client once who came to me with an epiphany, and now I steal her language. She said, I realized I just need to love up my marketing. When she said it, I could see a reflection for myself that I was kind of resentful that I had to market,
Ah,
right? Like resentful that I had to write the things. And so it was like, how fast can I write the emails? And then it was no fun,
yes.
as opposed to now I like get space on the floor and I get out my oracle deck and my crystals and my colored markers and it's like the most exciting, day.
Yeah.
But back then I didn't imagine that I should spend time on it.
It's like as soon as we see marketing as a to-do, a means to an end, it becomes work. But if this is communication with my future clients, these are love letters.
Mhm.
What can I do to give value in these? Yes, of course I want clients, but if I set that aside, what needs to be in here so there's value, even if this is a direct mailing to sell something. So if they
Yes.
walk away and they don't even buy, would they have got something out of this? And that's how I look at it. Even if it's just one sentence, that's a powerful sentence, it's a wake-up call, and something for them
Mhm.
to go, oh, I'm not doing that, or I should be
Mhm.
doing that, or like, ooh, that's a check-in, or ooh, I better
Mhm.
pay attention. Then it's a win-win. And
Yeah.
to me, that's the thing I do the most in coaching now, where I was the same as you. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to write these emails, and these people are going to be sick of hearing about me. And I'm going to be like, blah, 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 blah in their ear. I don't want to do that. Why would I want to do that? They don't want to hear that. And now it's like, oh yeah, I get to write emails. That's the easiest thing I could do. It's the most fun thing I can do. So I think the biggest thing to transition out of not liking marketing and it being a to do and a means to an end is, A, what's in it for my clients? Like, get all the focus off you. Like,
Yes.
oh, I got to make money. I got to do it right. Well, that's all about you. Nobody wants that energy, because it's a taking energy. It's lackful energy versus
Mm,
I'm spreading the love. These people, I'm
yeah.
expecting they want to hear from me, and I got something to share, and it's going to knock their socks off. It's like a
Mm.
surprise party in their inbox.
I love that. I got to write that down. So what do you do personally to like get in the unleashed mood around marketing?
For me, it's a given now. I don't even think about it. But the intention is I am always, I assume that their higher self, like everybody on my list, everybody who doesn't know me yet, their higher self is communicating with my higher self. They have a powwow about what do my clients need? What do my potential clients need to hear? What does
Mhm.
everybody need to hear from me right now? I assume that it's all happening, downloads into me, and I just trust that and go. If I'm
Mhm.
not feeling the energy, I don't feel that way about emails, but I will get into my head about, let's say, a sales page I'm writing,
Mhm.
or I might do that for like a freebie or an opt-in page of something. And so then I'm just like, what do they need to know most? Like, what is the big promise of what I know they already need? Like, I'm just going to like tune in to what I know. I'm going to trust whatever plops in my head about what they need to know. And even though, like, this happened the other day, I was in the middle of a launch, and I kind of do it the same way every time. And I just make little improvements each year. It's something I've launched over and over. I thought, I feel like we should do another live freebie. I don't know what I should do. The first webinar I did was about mindset. I think this should be more strategic. And what popped in my head definitely went against what I thought I should do for marketing. It's like, you're going to give them 5 ways to make a lot of money right now. I'm like, these are some of my like things I actually teach programs on. I'm going to give all that in a free thing. I'm like,
Mhm.
that's what popped into my head. You're going to give away there was a little, a little gremlin. You're going to give away everything. I'm like, well,
Mhm.
that's what's said to come through. Like, let's just do it.
Mhm.
And I did. And it felt so good. I was like, man, this should be like a $500 thing. They're like, this is
Mhm.
good shit. And it felt like such a gift. So it's like, if I'm just tuning into what needs to be done, first of all, it was so easy. The
Yeah.
copy wrote itself. I didn't, I didn't have to do anything. I don't have to write in a syllabus or nothing. It's like, I know this stuff like the back of my hand. Nothing could be
Yeah.
easier. Great value. And so a lot of times I feel like we are getting the downloads. We dismiss it, just swat it away.
Mhm.
Too easy. That's so simple. I'm giving away too much. Oh my goodness. It doesn't really matter. Like, we can monetize anything that we get the download for. Like, if you just follow it, life is going to be
Yeah.
easy. You're going to make money. It's a given. It should feel that easy. Except I think we're just so conditioned that it should be
Mhm.
harder, more complicated. We should put more into it.
Well, I think, I used to be an engineer in my first career, right? So my brain kind of works in maps like that. And which I used to really think was an amazing thing because I can strategize and, backtrack messaging and all of that, reverse engineer. And then the more tapped in I've gotten to source, it's like, wow, that just really gets in the way. What you think what your brain thinks the right message is might be totally off from the energy or the heart of what people really need to feel.
Yeah.
That's what I've found.
It's almost like, especially the more you learn about marketing, I feel like it's good. And you need to suspend that when we're doing soul
Mhm.
storming, right? Idea storming, like from soul. You just got to like
Yes.
put it over here, use whatever expertise once you have the idea to optimize the idea. But if you start from that
Yes.
place, you're already corrupting the flow of it. Like, you just took
Ooh.
it, you just limited it, you just put a cap on what it's going to produce for you.
I feel like everyone just needs to write that down right now. Soul storm first, and then use the formulas to kind of tweak it, but don't start with them.
Yeah, you'll already put a cap on what you know from your past. You'll already be in your head, so you're not sourcing infinite wisdom. It's just like limiter, limiter, limiter,
Mhm.
limiter. It can only go so far. And then it's not as fun because you started in your head and now you're
Yes.
screwed.
And now you're stuck having to deliver that thing, whatever it is.
All right, this is work now. All right, I got to finish what I started.
So I'm curious. I want to go back to something you said earlier. You said following the feel good, and I made 400K. And you said I didn't even really understand marketing. I'm guessing people are kind of like, how did she do that?
All right, I'll share how it started, and it sounds so easy, and it actually is. But it doesn't mean that I don't need to recommit to what I'm doing every day, because every day your
Mhm.
mind, at least my mind, and what I've seen from my clients, my mind wants to mess with me. So
Uh-huh.
I had made when I finally hit 100,000 and it was easy, I then got in my head again, and then I stayed stuck at 100,000 for probably a decade, which was a long time, and it made me doubt everything. Like, is this it? I'm never going to grow my business. I'm always going to have small workshops. This sucks. Oh, I have a mission in the world. And some of it wasn't even about money. I'm like, how am I ever going to spread the word? People love me, but why don't more people buy? What's wrong with these people? What's wrong with me? And then
Right.
one day I said, all right, I always call it my big girl launch. I'm going to learn how to do a big girl launch. I don't know how, but I'm going to make $100,000 just with one program that I teach online. I'd never done anything like that. So it was a way big
Mhm.
stretch for me. And I just said, I don't know how this is going to work, but I just know I'm deciding I'm going to make 100,000.
Mhm.
And then what I did was I made a shopping list. What am I going to do with $100,000? I've never had that much before all at once. What am I going to do? So let's channel where the money is going to go to so I can focus on that versus I don't want to see people as dollar signs because that really kills
Mhm.
the mojo. So let's just get excited about whatever I'm going to do with the money, like put some in savings. I'm going to buy, maybe my computer's sucked for a long time. I know I got to buy a new one. All right, make my little shopping list, get
Mhm.
committed to having those things in a fun way, not in a like, I got to make
Mhm.
the goal happen.
Yes.
And I do get attached to money goals. So I always have to be careful that I'm holding it
Mhm.
loosely. I set the intention, but it doesn't become a like, I got to make it happen or else. It's like, no, of course this is going to happen. And if I see it as of course it's going to happen, I don't even need to think about it anymore. But I do ask myself while I'm preparing for whatever the thing is I'm going to sell, what sounds fun? What does soul want? What does soul think? I'm
Mhm.
big on journal prompts, by the way, huge on journal prompts. I would just ask myself, so what do I need? What does my soul want me to know to align with? Or you could use, I call it your inner business expert, another way, inner guidance, right? What does
Mhm.
my inner business expert want me to know in order to align with that goal? Not to get the goal, to align with it. Because I think as soon as we say get the goal, we want to start strategizing.
Yeah.
What do I got to do? I got to do. It's like, no, no, no. What do you got to do to align? Maybe I need to release something. Maybe I need to go for a walk. Maybe I
Yeah.
need to just get connected to why do I want to do this? What is important about this offer, this program, this whatever? So I just kept coming back to what do I want? What does soul want me to know? Then what's
Mhm.
in it for the people? Why do they need this? Why is this going to be so awesome? How's this going to rock their world? And then I also chose, besides stretching into a monetary goal, I like having a stretch. Like, where's the personal stretch in this for me besides the money? For me, it was asking for people for help.
Mhm.
Like, who can
Mhm.
help promote me? I wanted to puke. That was so scary to me.
Yeah.
I don't want to bug people. I don't want them to feel like I'm using them. So I'm like, all right, clearly I'm scared of doing this. This is my stretch goal. I'm going to get wild and crazy. I'm going to ask 100 people to promote me. I don't know who to ask. I don't even know 100 people that could help me. But we're going to get wild and crazy with this so I can just get over my fear. So I played like
Mhm.
people do with clients. I'm just going to ask 5 people this week to help me, and I'm going to go for 5 no's. And as soon as I get 5 no's, then I can quit for the week. Well, of course, you don't, it's people say yes, and then I'm like, okay, this is getting kind of fun. But then I go back to soul. All right, if I feel like emailing people or calling people, I feel like I'm dialing for dollars. This feels cheesy, uneasy. I don't like this. What would feel good? Some personal. Let me do a little video for each person. I'm like, oh, that feels good. And then it made me want to do it. Because if you're going to, you can get the goal, but the stretch still can be comfortable. It's like, well, what will make this feel like I want to do it versus I'm procrastinating every day. This sucks. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just, yeah, 5-minute video. Be weird, quirky. I'm just not going to even follow a script. And it worked.
I feel like your brand is weird, quirky.
For sure.
And was there a point where that switched on? Like going from I have to be professional and look a certain way to actually being me is way more attractive. Like, do you remember that?
Oh yeah. I was in I was in a leadership program through the Coaches Training Institute, and they have all these things they make you do when you're leading in front of the room and challenges. And my big challenge was, they're like, you're super quirky and you need to let that out at your next workshop. You need to lead the whole thing from like a quirky perspective. I'm like, oh, hell no. I'm teaching an in-person cash flow workshop. I'm talking about investing and this and that. There is no way. Most of the people that attend are older than me. I was like in my late 20s. No way. They're like, oh, that you just got to try it. Oh my God. I was used to wearing suits and high heels, which is, I'm not a suit person. I'm a rock and roll chick. Give me a leather jacket.
Right.
Put me in a bathing suit, not on stage or anything, but like I'm a shorts, tank top, you know, whatever. I'm like, all right. So I went and I brought a boombox with all music that had the word money in it, like different rock and roll songs. I wore pants and a t-shirt that had like this funny money thing on the front of the t-shirt. I talked a little bit, not much, but a little bit about law of attraction, which is super scary. It was one of those moments where I'm like, oh, people were lined up in the back of the room after buying things. I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going back.
Wow.
I'm never going back to the old way. I'm never wearing a suit again, like never. And I have not.
How significant, like, I'm just imagining that what you chose to wear set the tone to like, they're already looking at you like something's different here. Like, how did you decide how to go about it? Right. Because it's so easy. You know, I teach about default energy and sourced energy, and we look at, you know, what is the underlying pattern that has us show up in default so we can love on it, heal it, transform it, and move into sourced energy. And then to me, when you leave retreat and you go back home, it's like so easy to just go back, right? Like we've got to have those anchors and reminders and where we can't turn back. So I think you showing up with the different outfit, there was like no going back. How'd you come up with that?
But for me, if I were going to do this and I knew I could do this any way I wanted, I gave myself full permission. What would be the different choices? Like, okay, is what I'm putting on, would I actually choose to do this if I know people didn't care? No, I wouldn't wear this. I would never wear a suit. I wouldn't stand in front of a room in high heels. Hell no, high heels are for going out on a date for me. Like I don't wear high heels ever. Okay, what are the things in my life that bring me joy that I want to bring into the space? Music. I like to give fun gifts and surprises. So what are what are fun, weird things that people wouldn't expect that would get them out of their head? Because what I really want to do is get them out of their head. What will take me out of my head? I just kept questioning everything.
Yeah.
Still to this moment, I will find myself following a formula without even knowing that I'm following a formula. This happened a few years ago. I was really taking it, like leaning all the way in. If I was going to be totally unleashed, being extreme, I'm going to start looking at everything. And I realized I was doing like a free 5-day challenge as a marketing, strategy. And I was sitting there in the chair getting my hair done while I was doing it. I've known my hairdresser forever. And she's like, what are you doing? You keep looking at this calendar. I'm like, I'm trying to see when this will fit in to my schedule, this 5-day thing. And I just can't find a spot. She's like, I see a spot right there. I'm like, but that's not a Monday. I start my challenges on a Monday. She's like, why? I guess because that's the way I was taught. Shit. I can't believe oh my gosh. I'm like, well, who says I have to start it on a Monday? That does not work. A Monday's not working for me right now on my calendar. What do I'm like, oh my gosh. There's so many little tiny ways that we just default into the way we've done it. Even if we're the one that created it from a place, like it was inner guidance that led to that first time, but then all of a sudden you just go, oh, that's
Yes.
the way I do it.
Yes.
Is that really the way it needs to be done this time now? Is that fresh energy, or is that just reverting back to the way I've always done it? Is that really optimal? Let me
Yes.
check with soul on that. Hold on, head.
So good. And, early on, my experiences with coaching, I wasn't working with coaches who were like, well, what's your soul say?
Yeah,
Right. It was just like, let me sound smart and tell you an answer of what you should go do. And so it sounds like that's really what you help your people with too, is like, let's make sure. I mean, I remember when we were in mastermind together and you would share about your work, it's like very much, is it fun? Does it feel alive? That's my language, but like, is it fun?
right.
And so much of, I don't know if you felt this way in our mastermind, so many of the questions were like, what subject line should I use to get, 0.3% higher open rate or whatever? At the end, I was like, I gotta take this, brush this energy off of all these subject line questions.
I know that's funny when we were talking. I almost said something about subject lines when we were talking earlier because that's like in marketing. I'm like, what's the subject line that's going to thrill me? Like that I think is badass, not because I don't know what will happen. It may get no opens, but I'm like, oh, that is so sad. That's a badass subject line. I am so clever. I am tickled with myself because that's the one that people are going to, oh, I love it. If I love it, it's bringing that energy to the internet. And for
Yes.
some reason, people will open
Mhm.
it. It doesn't need to
Mhm.
make logical sense. If soul told you, it's what needs to be in the damn subject line.
Oh, I love it. That's so great. Okay, so what is the More Clients Now template?
It's not what it seems. Again, it's a simple exercise that you're going to do every day. And this is one of the way it's really just a way to get you out of your head and in that receiving mode. This
Mm,
is what I did to turn myself around when I was going to say I don't know what happened, but I actually do. My personal life went into shambles. Let's just say it was an extreme situation with the old boyfriend. And I was so focused on that with fear, it leaked into my business. And
mhm.
all of a sudden, I'm like in a mountain of debt, no matter what, clients aren't saying yes. And then finally, after a year of that, I'm like, I need to shift out of this. Eva kept telling me that, my friend Eva, she's just like, you're trying too hard. I'm like, I know. And I can't stop. I feel like if I don't try hard, I'm being irresponsible. I need to make
Yeah.
money. And at some point, I said, okay, none of this is working. I need to surrender. I'm broke. It's just the way it is. And at that point, I called myself the extreme abundance coach, and which I'm like, I'm like such a
Mm,
loser. I can help my clients do it, but I suck. And if anybody found out what my, everything looked like behind the scenes, they would be like, loser. Like,
mm,
I need to just stop all of that, bring all the energy in. I need to start focusing on what's really working. And that's what this template is. It's a way for you to get back in alignment
mm,
on a daily basis so that you can start receiving more. Super simple. It sounds so simple. It's stupid. It doesn't seem like it can make a difference.
mm.
Just do it. Everything will change. You just got to stick with it. You got to stick with it. Like if my life depended on it, would I just do this every day for 5 minutes? By the way, it feels good. Yes, I would. And
So
you do it
good.
for 30 days and you are going to see a difference. For me, it was in the first 30 days, I saw a little bit of an opening. I found a little bit of money. And from then it spiraled. And I tripled my income that year. And it was a very good year. But it took me getting
It's
off of trying hard to make something happen.
it's so common when the energy starts to get tight around money, and then that whole conversation spirals into I'm a fraud. How can, even if you're not selling money stuff, right? It's like, why would anyone do, and then it gets so tight. So I'm sure a lot of people here are relating and resonating. It is at moreclientsnowtemplate.com, and we'll put that link below. But if someone's so excited they can't wait, I like to think of this podcast as, I'm not a likely advocate for intuition because I went to school to be a chemical engineer. I got a job at Procter and Gamble. Everything was logical. I had my spreadsheets and my graphs and my PowerPoints. And like, as long as the graph said something was correct, then it was correct. And if it didn't, my intuition, it was there. And I know it helped me in my work, but I was not empowering it in any way. Right. So I think about this podcast as reaching people who maybe are in that scenario, or maybe they're in a family where they're the weird one.
Yeah.
And, they are getting called in a direction, but everybody's going to think they're insane, that kind of person. If this were going to their ears, what would you want to leave them with?
Yeah. You are going to feel crazy and ludicrous. And how can I trust this information that's coming through? And you can, because if it feels good, it's right on track. The only things, and you probably all can look in your life, the things I most regret is when I didn't listen. I had the message to do this or that. Doesn't matter if it was personal or in business. And it was the things I regret are when I didn't listen, or I never even stopped to tune in.
Yeah.
So you just practice it, and it's okay. Be weird, but you're going to start, the more you practice it, you're going to see it always works. And how do I know if it's intuition or not? It feels good. It feels like a hell yes. It feels like super logical, super easy. And even if there's a lot of steps involved, you want to do it. And you might
Yes.
only feel like that for a second, and then your head might step in. But realize, did it sound good and feel good before that other little logical voice came in? And the first voice was actually the right one. You just have to experiment.
Yeah.
You just have to let it be an experiment and have fun with it. And I promise you, in the end, like, yeah, easy is the way. My inner guidance is always about easy.
I noticed often you're referring to people getting in their head. So I think, I also want to leave people with, if you're in your head, it's probably not source.
It's for sure not source. Guaranteed. There is a
Yeah.
place for our logic, but you will be guided to the logic and it will feel good
And
when you
it'll
get to the
feel
logic.
good. Yes. Thank you, Jeanna. This has been so fun. I love this conversation so much. And I know, like, I want every one of my clients to listen because I think there's so many light bulbs around marketing and source, really. So thank you for who you are. I so appreciate you saying yes. Anything else you want to say?
No, it's all perfect. It's all unfolding. Trust the process. Thank you for having me here. We're all going to go forth and listen to source.
That's so beautiful. I'm like, I don't know what to say. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you in the next episode.